What's up, Grandma? Good to see you. Declan is in the house. We were in C4, now we're C3. What's up, new man? Good to see you. Ryan, Mark. How are you, Mark? We'll let a few more people flow in. And then we'll slowly, Sonia's in the house. Slowly we'll roll in. What's up, TJ? Flapomsy? Flapomsy? I never know how to pronounce it. How are you, man? I'm doing amazing, man. Shooting an event in Vegas. It's great. We had a really good turn up today. Everything went smooth. Can't complain. Okay. So we're going to dive right in. TJ saying, does a projector count as a diffracted? You mean diffracted laser? No, it definitely does not. That's regular light. Unless it's a laser projector, but then you have to look at the specifics of how it works. I think you need. I mean, I don't know because I haven't tried. That's the truth, but it seems like you need a regular diffraction pattern. But also, why would you complicate things? These lasers are like $13 on Amazon. It's definitely not something that you have to, make too much of an effort. I mean, just the diodes, you gotta connect them to the on-off switch and all that. But again, this is a relatively simple project. Ilona Maria. What a name. Haven't seen such a Russian name in a while. How are you? Welcome everybody to Simulation Talk 109. This channel usually revolves around simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. A few years ago, I discovered that if you project a diffracted laser on a surface and you ingest a particular molecule that I can't really name here on the live chat, you will see code running in surfaces. And this observation has now been verified over 1,000 times worldwide and connected me with some of the leading researchers in the field. It's an ongoing conversation, and there's some back and forth, that's for sure, but it's a very important conversation we're having now in our time of our evolution and history. We meet here every single day to discuss the discovery, the implications, as well as science, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind. People bring up all kinds of subjects. Sometimes we have panels. Thank you for the likes, everybody. I appreciate you. And anybody on TikTok who wants to see longer forms videos of what you see here on TikTok, you can check out my YouTube channel, which is Dango Thoughts. DANGO Thoughts is my YouTube channel. Also, you can, for the rest of the platforms, you can follow me across platforms. It's Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram, Goller Danny on X, LaserX83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube. There we go. So now Oh man. Okay. I think we're good, right? We're back on the stream. Small technical difficulties. Wi-Fi of the hotel. It happens. Okay, let's dive right in. So if we have some few questions. Skylar's in the house. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the love. I appreciate you. I feel the love. I share the love. Send it back. How many pops would it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll pop and see the code? Great question, Artifact. The protocol is on codeofreality.com, which mentions all of these little details. Again, it's codeofreality.com. You can always go to YouTube if you want to see it written down. I'm going to put it on the screen right there. There we go. Feed cut. Thank you for the likes, guys. I would also encourage everybody on YouTube and X and Twitch to give the live some likes because it helps the algorithm for sure. Okay. So, yeah, if you have more questions after you look through the protocol, feel free to either ask me via my email that is also listed on the website or come to one of the lives. Don Hub is saying, I did the molecule and I would like to discuss. All right, let's discuss. Let's talk about it. Thank you, Ronaldo. Appreciate you guys. Is the code you discovered possibly the same code Dr. James Gates was talking about? I don't know. I highly doubt it because he discovered... Well, I don't know. That's the answer, right? That's the truth. I have no idea. But what he specifically discovered is error correcting codes that were in some fundamental equations of string theory. And this code wouldn't necessarily seem to be just error correcting codes. It seems to be a code that just codes for everything. But the truth is that I have no idea. That's the honest truth. Data 7 is saying, I don't exactly understand. All right. Tell me what specifically you don't understand so we can address it. And Dawn Hub, feel free to discuss. Whoa, getting a lot of love here. Thank you. Yeah, Data 7, I'm waiting for you to specifically tell me what is it that you don't understand and we can talk about it, no problem. Wow, I feel the love. This is awesome. I appreciate you guys. All right. So, I think that we have... is that the most correct way to describe what? You mean the code? I would say yes. I would say that is the most correct way to describe according to what we know the word code means and what the word simulation means. And sure, you can attach different words to it, but I would say it's the most accurate word according to what we understand about the word and what it actually means in its most fundamental form. Unless you meant something else, of course, and then we can open it up. Whoa, there's so much love here. I don't even know who it's coming from, but I appreciate that. Okay. There's more. That's awesome. To see if we can send the live to a different level. Okay. So I think that today, it feels like today we have a little bit less questions. So I guess so it's different from simulacrum and simulation. Skylar is sending all the love. Appreciate you, Skylar. It's a really good question, Data. The truth is that these words are kind of interchangeable. A philosopher friend of mine once told me that he thinks that the word simulacrum would actually be better. So you're in good company. I, however, not sure that I agree. Well, first of all, because simulacrum basically means simulation without a base, right? So you can say that, but I think it is based on something. I think it's based on a concept. It's based on some kind of a preconceived notion of what environments beings should have in order to achieve some kind of a result. Now, of course, I don't know this for a fact. I'm only kind of gathering a lot of information from me interacting in that space. But it seems to me that the word simulation both suffers less from being less known. So if you say, we'll live in a simulacrum, yes, it would invoke interest, which is always a good thing. But for the most part, I think most people would just kind of browse through because they don't know what the word simulacrum really means. And the word simulation feels like it just hits the mark more in terms of easy communication with more people. And that starts a conversation. From that point on, you can clarify, you can explain what you actually mean by that. And what I usually say is that the proposition is not that we're stuck in a computer software, and it is not that this is fake, because some people think that the word simulation means fake, which it does not. It just means computationally rendered. I think the movie The Matrix did a lot of heavy lifting in convincing people that the word matrix or simulation is somehow equivalent to prison or being stuck or fake, right? But the truth is that any environment, no matter how it comes about, that has any conscious agents in it experiencing anything at all is reality. For these beings is reality. So it doesn't really matter how it comes about. The point is that there's experience. So now, in the context of that, the proposition is that the world at bottom is computational, and we can talk about what that means. That's actually an important word to break down. But it is more of what we would call computationally flavored than what we would call physical flavored. And yes, you have the physicality of that space, but that this physicality is merely the simulation. It's a slice. It's one simulated slice from the larger computational reality. So essentially, it's the movie The Matrix upside down. The real world is the computational world, and our world is actually a sub-world that is not, it's less real. It's a slice of the bigger reality. Hope this makes sense. Am I sure everyone are conscious? I know I am. That's all I need to know. The consciousness is possible, and that's all I need to establish that experience is happening somewhere. So it actually makes no difference if there's anybody else who's conscious. I live my life under the happy assumption that I'm not alone and there's other conscious beings. I know that nowadays, for some reason, it's from both directions, both from the nihilistic perspective, the beliefs that nothing really matters, and also from, surprisingly, from the spiritual perspective, which kind of insists that we're all one, which I actually think that even though there's good reasons to postulate something like that, ultimately, I think as long as we don't have the experience of being one in any given moment, like, constantly, I think it's more of a platitude and more of a virtue signal than a real sentiment or a real understanding of any kind. That's my position. So I personally find it more noble, more profound, and actually more moving to have a communion with the other than to be good or do better just because you believe that everybody are you. I actually think that's kind of like the definition of being the most selfish thing possible, right? Oh, everybody are me? Okay, I'll be good. I mean, that's silly, right? So, from all directions you can possibly look, me personally, I'm convinced that the better way to look at it is from what closer to what it really is. And also, even though you're correct that the word simulacrum can definitely fit, and maybe, I'm not sure, maybe even more accurate to some degree, to be seen. I think the word simulation is more useful because it starts a conversation easier because most people know what it is, and then we can give this explanation, but now we're engaged in a dialogue versus kind of scrolling through and not really engaging with the content. Are there any glitches that you know of in our simulation reality? Glitches would imply that there's a norm from which the simulation departs, but as far as I understand, the simulation is open-ended, which means any glitch is just a happening in the world. Ah, that was a good face that it froze on. That was perfect. What kind of books would you recommend? On what topic? It's a very broad family. I always mention two of my favorite books, but that's just random because I'm one person, and your taste in books might be very different. Some of my favorite books are The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch, which truly reformulated everything about and how I perceive the world, and actually made me very optimistic about the future in realistic terms. Again, The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch. I highly recommend that book. And as far as I'm concerned, David Deutsch is a genius. And Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's, some people say it's a fiction. I say it's a philosophy book. And I think it's incredible. But if you give me a genre, I'll tell you which book I would recommend. Okay, let's see what we got here. Does the color of the laser matter? Great question. It seems no, but to see the content. However, red is the lowest frequency. So in that sense, I guess yes, because there's less danger to your cornea over time. So red seems to be favorable, at least in the sense that it's the lowest frequency. Thank you so much, Betsy. I appreciate your gift. Hey Dan, is the code coding for the object you're shining the laser on? I think the answer is no. Or is the laser going through the object and seeing the whole background code for everything or a slice of? I think the latter. I think you nailed it in the second one. I think you're basically seeing the code for higher or low, I don't know, higher level, depending on if you see it as a substrate or something that is projected down, I guess. But you're basically seeing the code that codes for the proto functions that then give rise to our physical reality. Hello, Australia. Aussie, 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 Aussie. TJ is saying if you use a laser projector, then take the molecule with the whole screen turned to code, like when you're watching The Matrix. I imagine you can just play a red film or a green film. No, you can't. That's why I'm saying I don't think that would work. But hey, if you can prove me wrong and you tell me that that works, I mean that would be amazing. I'll be the first one to say I'm happy to hear that, and I will be the first one to try right after you. Do. Woo! No, don't worry. Today the yawning is very it's fashionable. It's not really falling asleep. I think it's just my body is like after entire days of shooting that's takes a toll on you. Is it always the same type of letters and numbers or both? Yes. It seems to be the same code no matter where you are, when you are, who you are, or how you are. That's why it's so unique, and that's actually why I started talking about it, because on the molecule you can see a lot of things. It can produce literally infinite types of things. It's all powerful. Like it literally can project. It can make anything happen, really. It can make people appear or disappear in the room. I'm not even kidding. So, you never know what it's going to do, which, by the way, is something that I see people say in the comments all the time, and I don't blame them because most people have no idea, but it is definitely not going to do what you tell it to do. So it's not like if I'm going to tell you something, all of a sudden it's going to start doing that because you were, influenced by what I said. It does not care what you think, what you want, what somebody told you. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's going to show you what it's going to show you. And usually it's so surprising that the only rational, realistic response is, So, this is why it's so weird that the code is always there. I mean, it's not weird is the wrong word at this point. I understand what it is. I mean, yeah. It doesn't have this property of like, whoo, hallucinating. It doesn't have that. It's just like a regular object, which is super strange. The claim of a laser exposing code sounds like a pretty big discovery. Who else is onto this claim? What do you mean by who else is onto this claim? You mean who else replicated this? I mean, I personally know of a few hundred people, a few hundreds of people, and as far as I know from all the communities online around the world at this point, I keep saying over 1,000 individuals, but I'm pretty sure at this point we're getting closer to 2,000 individuals. But really, the numbers don't really matter. Like the second anybody sees it for themselves, they immediately know that this is a real thing. You don't need anybody else to tell you it's real. It has the nature of the way it appears makes it super clear that you're looking at something real. Can you capture it on a cam or a slow motion cam, and are you able to view it from a film with the molecule? Yeah, great question. I don't even think it needs to be in a slow motion film. Because well, actually, that's not true. That it is a good point that you're making. That if it's if it's a slow motion film, maybe we can see the code running slower. However, it seems that the code has to be running in the speed that it does, even in a still picture. Now, I've only personally seen it once this way, so maybe it doesn't hold water until we test it a few more times. But actually, that would make sense to me because the same reason that the speed of light is always constant, if this is the code that codes for reality, it's also the code that codes for your experience of reality, or maybe they're one and the same. Which means that no matter when you're looking at the content of what the code is, when you have access to see it in some form, you must be seeing it at the speed that it goes, because everything else answers to it and it answers to nothing. Does that make sense? But this is, of course, a hypothesis. I'm not really sure. Um, so if you guys want to come on, you feel more than welcome to, but you have to drop a comment for me to know what we're about to talk about, so I know that we're not drifting into some subjects that don't really matter to this chat. Okay. "2,000 examples, only one video showing it. Weird. Not sure what you mean. Are you implying that I'm just making the number up? I'm just telling you what I know. Uh, or are you under the impression that I was supposed to have 2,000 examples? People replicate this all the time. I get an email here and there. Here, hey, I did the experiment with 5 of my friends. We all saw it. Oh my God. I get these emails all the time. So, yeah, it amounts to a pretty big number. Um, yeah, I mean, would you video yourself and then want to send it to people? Not everybody wants to do that. Also, I don't really have a database at the moment. We have the people can send me whatever they want, and we do kind of compile that. We also we have more footage that we're going to be using for the documentary, obviously. But yeah, not really sure what was your point. Yeah. Is it important to blur the line wider? Can it be seen on human skin? Yep. So two questions, right? I'm pretty sure that there's a way to do it even wider. I think beyond a certain point, the diffraction just diffuses too much, and you can put it on your human skin, and yeah, you will see code. You will see code running on the human skin as well. Do you suppose the ancients had a way of seeing the code? I feel like I'm almost alone like in the communities of of the because we kind of belong in bins right now. I don't see myself as that, but people kind of place you there. um I guess in an alternative thought or whatever it is. I think it's just mainstream science, to be honest. I think it's just at the moment people have a hard time grasping that something like this would be considered mainstream science. But in the group of people that kind of talk about the Anunnakis and the pyramids and all of that stuff, I seem to be alone in that I actually don't think so at all. I don't think the ancients had any more information than we do. I think we are the most advanced humans to ever to walk the face of the earth. I have a suspicion that actually this is a little bit of almost like a recoiling mechanism of humanity not wanting to take responsibility for the power that we have and can yield. It's almost like we're afraid of our own potential. So it's easier to pretend like we actually are the dumb ones and people in the past knew better and we should just go back to that, or we should just humble ourselves and all that stuff. In the end of the day, if you wake up in a crazy bus that is going somewhere and you don't know where it's going, and you're the only one in the bus who can figure out the fact that you're in a bus and you can grab the wheel and do something with it, you have a responsibility to do so. And pretending like somebody else back in the past could do that, that's kind of shaking off responsibility. That's how I see it. I don't, and if it sounds like it's unrelated to your question, the way it's related is that this kind of sentiment of the past was wiser, the past had all these ways that we've forgotten. It's what I'm talking about. It's kind of like a way of shaking off responsibility, as far as I can tell. We're going to space, people. We can go to space. That's crazy. Not to understand that that is the most advanced thing humanity has ever, the Earth has ever seen. I mean, I think it's just silly. They could cut rocks. We go to space. um, let's see. I imagine that ancients did a lot of experiments and learning things in the hard way because they didn't have a recording system to know long-term consequences. Exactly. We that the descendants of which are us, and we developed the scientific method, which, in addition to everything else that people knew, we also learned how to keep track of things and measure them and develop the idea that progress is even possible, which is all by itself is a new idea. And one thing I would say, however, I do think that because of the pace of everything that we're now, bringing into being, yes, I would agree that there's certain there's certain types of information that I guess we would call wisdom. In other words, how to live in the context of having more, right? Not just constantly being able to do more and have more, but also to live well. That I think is something that we need to work on now. So yes, I agree. That was lost. That's a product of the speed with which things are moving. We're not quite coping with it yet. We don't really know how to go about it. But I don't think the solution is to just stop that, because you can't stop that. That's just what information does. But I think that some work needs to be done how to reformulate our attitude towards what matters. So we do need to reconsider our values, and it might be very difficult to do because the train is now moving very fast. But it is, I think, necessary if we want to truly embark on this next chapter of our evolution. I do think that. So, can we take some wisdom from the past? Yes, yes, we can. And I think we're doing that to some degree at this point. There's some understanding. It's just that vilifying neither the past nor the present or modernity in general. I don't think that, not only it's not a solution, it's actually a trap. Like, that is truly a trap, because the way that you see yourself is kind of like that's what you're going to develop into, right? So if we see ourselves as a disease, as a problem, we're going to keep doing things in a way that kind of treats ourselves as that problem. But we're not. We're not a problem. We're part of the natural tapestry of everything, just like everything else. We're just a very advanced version of some sort of something. And recognizing the responsibility that comes with the abilities that we have as the custodians of this place, and being the protectors of this biosphere, of this beautiful Mother Earth, and all the beautiful things that you want to imagine. But it should not be in the name of, oh, look at us going too far. That's the same narrative from the beginning of time. Don't venture outside the village. Somebody did, and thanks to that person, you're here. So we can be a little bit more grateful. We're here thanks to the people who ventured and discovered. Because when you stay in the village, the problems don't disappear. The problems will come and find you. The wolf will come into the village. In order to understand how to protect ourselves from predators more, we had to venture, we had to understand more, we had to build bigger. And again, there's always a price for everything. But this idea that at some arbitrary point you should stop understanding and just stay there, it has nothing to do with less problems or, the environment all of a sudden going, oh, look, they relaxed. Now we can just keep everything in its borders. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. The danger will come and find you, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. Hello, mate. You stream pretty cool. That's why I followed you. Thank you so much. Fremzy68 from Twitch. I'm always happy to get a comment from Twitch because I don't get a lot of those, so I appreciate you. And a follower. I would like to make you a friend and be a fan. If you don't mind, kindly chat on my Discord. Invitation Discord. Got it. All right. Well, might check it out. We'll see. You might have gotten me because I don't get a lot of. I have like I have almost no followers on Twitch, so I feel very special when I get a comment from Twitch. It's hilarious. Okay. Wait, what is happening here? What is this? Okay. So we have a thing like legal prohibition of certain elements and molecules, which means we are restricted from knowing some things that they would know from them not having those constraints. I don't think that the restrictions came because the government knows what the molecule space has to offer and then they restricted it because of that. They restricted it because people were getting out of control in the 60s. That is true. I don't know if you know this, but the whole era of the hippies was extremely irresponsible. I don't think we should repeat something like that. They just basically took drugs all day, partied their asses off, and babies ventured into traffic. This happened quite often. People were extremely irresponsible, and there was bad news. So the government decided to step in and say, whoa, 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 whoa. That's going to stop. Now, obviously, banning it in this way, we now know is a silly way to go about it because any prohibition will simply, pop off in some other way. But that's all the government could think about doing. I assure you, like I can say this with 100% certainty, it's not because the government knew something that they decided to cover. It might happen in other areas, but in this area, there is no way that was the case. Otherwise, the government would not be behaving the way that it does. Geo Fletcher is saying, could this possibly be transmission waiting for us to be able to decode it? Maybe instructions on how to contact something else. Maybe. I agree. There's definitely some element here, and maybe it's my romantic mind wants it to be kind of like the messages from the movie Contact, which would be amazing. But yeah, something like that. Something tells me that we are on the cusp of understanding something very deep. I do know that people from different kinds of cultures call it different things. Recently, I've been to this podcast called Night Shift, and they mostly do stuff about UAPs. It was actually a lovely conversation. It's usually not my subject matter, but they were very lovely people, and I think I will even come back to the podcast because it was great. And they, a lot of people in that community kind of call it the disclosure that is coming. I don't necessarily know the specifics of any of that. I do know that, and this this is like a public announcement here, but I do think that whatever it is truly of the magnitude that people at the moment I think can't even comprehend. I think much bigger, in fact, than what people think about as UAPs. I think it's much bigger than that. It's not just aliens. It's, I really think it's something that people say, how does it go? People go, we can handle it. Not sure. I am not sure. And it's not that we should, it's it's not that it's okay to decide. Hold on, I'm gonna grab some water. Maybe it was the aliens telling me not to talk about the disclosure. But in any case, I think the important thing is, and this kind of goes, I think, across the board to be true, which is that you want to live a good life. No matter what you believe about the world, you want to live a good life. It won't hurt you. If anything, it's going to make you happier. That's for sure. I think that's a wise thing to do. I think that we as humanity, I personally believe we can live a much better life and both individually and collectively. And we want to be examples for future generations, not the ones that everybody pointed back and said, "You remember these lunatics? Jesus Christ." Could this oh, okay, right. Germany's watching too. What's up, Maloney's Elena? Good to see you here. First time in the live stream. So excited to see more from you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. How far are you with your work? Any new video coming out soon? What are you working on right now? Thank you so much for all the questions. Yeah, we're working on a documentary, as I'm pretty sure you know. Should be ready within the next 7 months or so. I'm also working on a whole line of new experiments that I'm going to start doing soon, and I'm going to be documenting everything, both for the documentary and in general. The next actual video on my channel is probably going to be the new one about the console, with new graphics and new explanations. And I have a few more interviews lined up that I'm very excited about. And yeah, I think the next big part of the work would be to basically report all the different experiments and what fails. Most of it will fail, of course. But then I do feel that something will succeed. And when it does, well, that potentially might be the most viral video of all time. Our ancestors were also significantly less distracted, exactly, so they would have time to discover parts of nature we would never find out about, like how we knew phone numbers back kids. That's a really good point, but I do think that in order to understand things on a deeper level, it's not necessarily just that people were paying more attention. If they didn't have certain levels of comfort, they wouldn't possibly be able to allocate enough time to pay attention to the necessary things to discover new things. Back in the day, you were pretty much all day busy. Well, if you go back enough, all you were busy is searching for food, taking care of your kids, finding shelter. That's all you could do, right? Then when we build houses, when we had already infrastructure of some sort, which by the way is already technology, it allowed you more free time. But then the first thing that came to mind was not to think about the deeper things about the universe, which for some people it was, but for most people it was, oh, look at this, we can gain things. How about we think about how we gain more things? That's a natural thing. By the way, that's not a human trait, it's just a natural trait. So anything that can expand as much as it possibly can does. Everything does in the universe. Literally everything does that, right? So we did the natural thing, which is just to expand. And the irony is that this sentiment that people now sometimes consider to be hubris or even a negative one, which is, progress, technology, advancing, was actually the one thing that set us apart from everything else in nature, which is that, or the natural order of things until this moment in this corner of the universe, which is that we, even though we could just expand, we did other things as well. So some people allocated time for something else, not just gaining, or they actually paused and thought about the deeper things. And these are the people that led to the big discoveries. And there were very few of them. And you have to ask yourself, why so few? And that's a question that has been asked by philosophers throughout the ages. And I think one of the interesting answers, potential answers, is it's because it's really hard. Because you can't know what you don't know, and you can't know when the next, leap of understanding will come from until it does. And then when it does, it has to be acted on, protected, and it needs to be not just aimed at and executed by one or two individuals. It needs to be elevated to the status of importance by entire societies. And that requires a certain kind of culture. So if the culture does not value progress, for example, this is a good example that actually David Deutsch gives in the book The Beginning of Infinity, which I mentioned before, which is the difference, for example, between Sparta and Rome, was that Sparta they were good at one thing and one thing only, which is fighting. But the reason they were so good at it is because actually, and this is also the reason that what led to their demise, according to Deutsch, which is that they were actually aiming towards the lack of progress. It sounds weird, but they actually had to do work to not progress. They actually had to put, the culture valued tradition and everything that was. It devalued anything new or new ways of thought, which is why they eventually failed. And the argument in the book is that the beginning of infinity is these instances in human civilization when we reach into the infinite, into the truly potentially infinite. And we've only done it successfully once, which is now. And this is why we have to protect it and cherish it and be very careful with how much poison we spread around it, because these ideas about, the dangers of progress and all of that might actually be the same thing that killed all civilizations before us. We always think of it as like, what happened? Well, it might have a similar thing happen when you get to a certain level of ability to do things, and all of a sudden there's like a recoiling, there's like a ooh, and then if there's enough of the sentiment that says no, 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 no more, then there's no more. That's the irony. That's probably the thing that killed those civilizations. That then leads to a lot of friction. That probably leads to either dissipation of that society or war or worse. So, yeah, you can break it down in many, many different ways. One thing I think is certain, which is that we have this ability to do this, right? To think beyond what is possible and then to execute it and to make it into something real. And I think that is something that needs to be celebrated. And I thought we were doing that. And now recently it seems like they're kind of falling out of favor. And that actually concerns me more than anything else concerns me. So to that point about, people back then had more time to think, yes, but not about the right things. In order to think towards actual progress, you have to have a few things in place. And the key elements are believing that it's even possible to make progress, which is, there you go, which is actually a novel thought in history. It was not that obvious to people at all. How are you, Danny? You can think of it as like a software and an operating system that didn't exist before. The idea that it's possible to make something that wasn't here before, to us, is a given, but it didn't exist back then. So if it didn't exist, why would anybody think of it? It was like a new thought that, wait a second, can we make something that wasn't? And then it's not enough for one inventor to exist. You need a whole culture that values that. And then it protects that value. So when something new is created, it's being moved through culture and raised in importance. And then people engage with it and do something with it. So when you have an entire culture that is engaging with it, now you have real progress, right? And culture is the larger unit of operation of humanity. No individual can build a rocket. No individual can build a phone or computers the way everything we're using now. You need culture for that. Are there also negative things about culture that basically, you kind of sacrifice certain people's well-being for the benefit of very few? Yeah, I would say that's a negative part about culture, but it's something that culture can remedy, can choose to remedy and say, hey, our culture should value this progress, but not on the expense of some individuals who have to live a tremendously horrible life so we can have this comfort. How about we figure out a system in which, yeah, things take a little longer, but everybody are happy. And that would bring up well-being more, and now you can have the cake and eat it too. There's no problem. And I do think that ultimately we are some kind of an organism that allows for a higher function, that, by the way, is part of nature, that allows for life to expand throughout the universe. So if life begins on one planet, in order for it to move on to another planet, probably most of what we know as biological life can't just jump from planet to planet that easily. It needs some kind of a mechanism by which to do so. So species like us, I see us as one potential mechanism by which this can happen. But in order for that to happen, the mechanism has to also have a healthy element in it, right? which I guess we can call them values. So like if you're just a cancer-like culture that just kind of spreads everywhere and just takes whatever, yeah, that's not going to be a good thing overall. But if you are a culture that kind of get its act together and then you expand throughout the universe and you build the gardens of Babylon everywhere, and it's you just bring this greenery and beauty with you. I mean, I don't see why not. I don't see why this is not the most beautiful dream you can possibly imagine. But for that to happen, you have to elevate these values in a culture, not just on the individual level. Okay, we have quite a few comments. Thank you for these questions. Is the laser output milliwatts mandatory, or are you just worried about damaging the eyes? Well, that's hilarious. Uh, the answer is yes, because it damages your eyes. What? You have to not damage your eyes, I would say. And you will absolutely damage your eyes if you do more than 5 milliwatts. It will absolutely happen. Not maybe, for sure it will happen. So please don't. It's not worth it. If you stare even at the projection of a laser that is about 5 milliwatts for more than a few minutes, you're gonna start getting a headache. And eventually you will see a difference in the fact that you're gonna need glasses. So don't do it. It's really not worth it. The government came after the substances to get rid of naysayers and protesters and ESP because so many people of color partook in them. Those were Nixon's enemies. Okay, sorry, Robert. I appreciate your comments, but this is you took it to a very political slant. There's a lot more to it than just this like super simplistic surface interpretation. But also, I don't do any political stuff here on this channel. It's just the wrong channel. Thank you for your reply. I remember listening to Terence McKenna about what the mushrooms would tell him. One included sharing in interstellar technology to spend themselves throughout the cosmos. Yeah, that will be one mechanism. Once a civilization was ready. And civilization would signal that it's ready by building machines that can go to space. Wow, it'll be there to watch everything. What is your belief in what this all is? Any thoughts about it? What do you mean? Oh, you mean the world? Can't wait to figure out the truth. If I would have to fortune, I would totally support you financially. Thank you. It's how dedicated I am in this bad news. I really can't support after then just watching. Jose, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Wow, it's late, huh? It's okay. Just watching also helps a lot. Thank you. Yes, definitely must share fails as well as advances to save time with the experiments. Absolutely, I will. Are you uploading the live stream as well? I can't watch everything. I have other duties in life. Would love to watch that. Yes, absolutely. It's all recorded. You can watch it on the live later. I feel the world is changing into what? I don't know. That's scary. Don't you agree? Again, humans were always scared of everything they can't see or understand. That's exactly the point. The one thing we have to overcome is fear. We have to overcome our fears. Fears are the source of all of our problems, of our stagnation, of our wars, of our disagreements. All of it is due to fear. At a certain point, you have to know enough to say, okay, there's actually not enough things to worth fearing. Culture is not your friend, Terence McKenna. You want to hear something funny, Lovey Whittles? So this comment right there. Oh, on Twitch. Beautiful. So, I'm going to take a snapshot of that. Because the first video I've ever listened to by Terence McKenna, it wasn't even a video. It was one of these, like, somebody made a compilation with terrible sound. It was called Culture is Not Your Friend. That was the name of the. I think it's still up. Let's see if I can find it. Terence McKenna, culture is not your friend. Can't find that exact one. If I find it, I'll send it to you. So first, I would say that Terence McKenna was one of my heroes for sure. His ability to paint with words is just incredible. I love him. Yeah, I love him too. He was my inspiration to think in these unorthodox directions. And in fact, when the first moment that happened to me when I started having these like extremely realistic visions was when I was thinking about one of his propositions that he said, this is not a DRUG. This is an alien that disguises itself as a DRUG. And that's exactly what caused this break where all of a sudden I broke into a different space in the molecule space. That being said, if Terence would be alive today, me and him would disagree on a lot of things, but I would still love him, and I would still adore everything he did. He's absolutely incredible. Was such an incredible human being. I'm writing a movie about him, in fact. But this would be one of the things I just would disagree with him. Terence famously said always, culture is not your friend in the sense that it's all a scam. The culture basically tries to make you into a cog in a machine, which is a very kind of like Orwellian, very the wall, kind of thinking, which was very common for that time and also very groundbreaking. Like it was truly people who thought like that were considered pioneers and brave, right? And for every time in history, for every culture, you have the kinds of thoughts that fall under the definition of, the renegades, the one that are the free thinkers, the one that help us think outside the box, and they think like nobody else does. That kind of thought was that for that period of time. But I actually think that now, funny enough, people who believe in the most mundane values, like family values, the fact that kids should have two parents, the fact that just to live the wholesome life, like to live a good life, care for other human beings, care about your country, like all of these things, they are actually the ones considered to be the culture breaking crazy thought, right? Because things come into fashion and then they become the norm, and then somebody comes along and says, hey, I don't want to be part of the norm. So then they are the ones that are the outliers, and that's the thing that actually stands out. So it's funny because it's a flux, right? So it really depends on where you are in history and where you are in culture, and according to that, the different kinds of sentiments, the different kinds of humans like to express will be expressed. So the people that like to be the contrarians, they just like to be the contrarian. So it doesn't matter what culture they're going to find themselves in. A contrarian in the 60s or 70s would be like Terence. Contrarian today will be a person who talks about, family values and, like things that we would consider more like, like just vanilla, right? That would be the outlier. That would be the free thinker, because all of us were like, yeah, man, we just do whatever we want. So the people who say, no, I just want to live like a really wholesome life, they're actually the outlier. It's really funny how it goes. And that's the contrarian today. So in the end of the day, we like to express certain kind of sentiments. And I think some of it is pre-wired. Like we're just born with it. It's almost like the system needs certain kinds of numbers of certain kinds of people in order to keep certain status quo of something. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be the case. And then, depending on what the main substrate is at the moment, culturally, that's how these things will express themselves. And when you understand that, that's a real waking up from the matrix, which is you understand it's like, wait, this is just a game. I can just play it. I can just be whatever. But what kind of thing do I want to be? Do I want to be the thing that causes a lot of problems and suffering to other people? Or do I always want to be happy and other people to be happy around me. Which one do I want to be? I'm not saying necessarily one is preferably than the other, but I don't know. It seems to me that the second one is better. So I will do my best to live that life, right? And this is why I think I'm not really sure that Terrence would necessarily disagree today with the kind of culture that we're seeing today, but that is a very long-winded way of saying that even though this was the first thing I've ever heard Terrence say, and I thought it was amazing and brilliant, and I still think it is brilliant. It's very thought-provoking, and I highly recommend you listen to this. Culture is not your friend. There's some truths in there still. I do think the culture is very important. It is the way we cohere. It is the way we come together to make bigger things. And if you think we should never make bigger things, then right on. Like, you're right. But I think we are an intelligent species for a reason, and we will outlive our star. And the only way we can do that and become true Galactarians is if we create a better culture and not no culture. Anyways, I think that's enough about culture, but I love this subject, so thank you so much. Love you, Whittles. And thank you so much for being a member. I appreciate you. We're going to set up a Zoom call for the end of the month. I'm very excited about my first Zoom call with my members. And it's going to be a cozy one. Can we please get more information about what's coming out next? Would love to get more details. I'm not... Well, it's too broad of a question, Maloney. I appreciate your interest, but what you're asking is too general. You can always go to... First of all, anybody can email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com if you have specific questions. Please make sure that the email is usually no more than one paragraph, because I get a lot of them and I'm trying to get to all of them. I would love to see your thoughts instead of remixing Terence, unless you fix or expand his thoughts with yours, and that is included in that homage remembrance video of Terence. Sure. I mean, sometimes I like to go on memory lane and promote some beautiful thought that was before. I appreciate what you're saying, Danny. I appreciate the fact that you want to see some of my original thoughts, and sometimes I share them. But, you know, if I have an opportunity to talk about who I consider to be one of the greatest minds of all time, and maybe to some degree give his thoughts a new spin, which, by the way, I said quite a bit here that Terence would not say. In fact, I said that I would disagree with him and why. So I think that definitely counts for an original thought. But yeah, also promoting the thought of somebody who I consider to have been a genius, because I think it's beautiful. Even if I disagree with the message, I think it's important to do as well. You are not looking directly into the laser or the reflection on the wall. You're looking at the wall, yes. But if it's about 5 milliwatts, it will still do cornea damage eventually, even if you're just looking at the wall. If time would not be a factor in content creation, I would not say this, though. Oh, you mean like that there's only so much time we can spend? Yeah, I think that these ideas are actually important to promote. So I will keep doing that if it feels correct in that moment. Terence was indeed a meaning innovator, deserves of such things. Yes, he does. I know you listen to every word of him. Sure, yeah. But I think it's important to talk about it. Not just, I'm not trying to say, here's what I know about Terence. I'm saying these ideas are worth talking about. And you'll be surprised how many people don't know who Terence was, which is why I want to make sure that more people do. But that's one of these things where, first, in order to even bring about... Terence used to do this too, by the way. He was one of the most well-read people, I think, to have ever lived. I think he read over like 50,000 books or something crazy like that. And in the end of the day, don't forget that it was basically reiterating a lot of what he knew from others. He was talking about what Whitehead wrote a lot. And he was resting very heavily on Blake. So it's always a remixing of other ideas, right? And it's very rare that we have truly like a really, really novel thought that nobody had before. That's super rare. The only one I can think of And even there, I think it's still a remixing to a degree. Is the one that when I was talking about the vision about the creator kind of asking the question of why everything, right? And even that is not necessarily fully a new idea. I think I just gave it a little bit of a twist at the end, which, by the way, is another video that I'm actually now officially beginning to work on. But that's the truth. We don't. It's all remixing of ideas. So I'm not really sure. Carl Jung, yeah, Carl Jung definitely. Carl Jung was even a lot more so. You're right. Carl Jung was definitely one of the most learned people to have ever walked the face of the earth. What's the lowest nanometer that would still work? Well, 5 milliwatts, you're safe. You're good. You want to spread his work. What makes this hard is that since then the horizon expanded, so I had to say this in order to have a devil's advocate to support this viewpoint. No, I do appreciate. First of all, it means that you put a lot of faith in what I'm doing, so I do appreciate that. I think it's just in this case, it doesn't really like I wasn't just reiterating what Terence said. I was talking about why I disagree with that. So that is using what Terence said, promoting it, but at the same time saying why I think we advanced and why I think now it's different. So it's exactly what I did. One unified culture of Earth should be the big unveiling. What do you mean? The unveiling is one culture of Earth? That we don't know that we're one culture? Is that what you mean? Ooh. We have a lot of people here. There we go. Oh, we have a lot of comments on TikTok. Jose said, heard it from my teacher. I spoke a lot, so if you want to tell me. Oh, let me look at the comments. There's a lot of them. Okay, I'm not gonna go that far back because there's so much. Trying to find the first comment. Our human culture still does this today. What do you mean it's never stopped? Sorry, Data 7. So I spoke for quite a bit. I'm gonna keep reading down, but if you want to repeat what you meant, because I'm not really sure what you mean by that. You said, our human culture still does this today. What is this? Because I said a lot of things. What do you mean it's never stopped? I think either you misunderstood me or I'm misunderstanding what you're saying now. So if you can just clarify. There is an anxiety worrying about the future. Trust in the process. Learn from the journey. Fear not there. Yes. Progress from courage, not fear. I love that. That is exactly right. Our faith must be strong, stronger than our fears. That is the lesson. I love it, Jose. Thank you. Oh, that's what you heard from your teacher. Okay. I just saw your aura. It has a green look to it. Beautiful, Joey. What does that mean? I hope it's good. But it's true. Culture, religion, government. To cultivate the lack of fear within a culture, society thought, though, that would require creating a. I don't see the rest of it. Are you the guy I saw with seeing the simulation with the laser? Yes, Joey, that is me. If you're looking at the laser using your phone, do you see the same code? If yes, try to record. I did, but the code seems to be running in the same speed that it does. Thank you, artifacts. I was told by not a very nice person that I was about to break out of the matrix, but when I asked after after recording, watch the record yourself and check. Yeah, what they refuse to tell me because they can't really tell you love above all all else. Love above all else. It's hard to say, but I love what it says. Can't subscribe at the moment. What's your email again? The email is lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Lasersimulationx@gmail.com. What's up, Bill? Would it sound crazy if I said I swear I've seen cars almost glitch out of the corner of my eye? No, it would not sound crazy. I've seen something like that before. Blake's Mindforged Manacles quote resonates with me. I see. What do you think? Synchronicity. Well, it depends on the synchronicity, of course. What do you mean by what do I think of it? Anyway, thank you for the reply and your answers. I will keep watching and with that supporting you. Keep at it. Hopefully you can research in a way someday without taking a risk of hurting your eye. Yes. Have to go now. Happy I could listen for a sec. Thank you so much for being here, Melanie. Nick Neon is saying, do you think that we will physically meet other than humans this year? Great question. Maybe next year. What are your thoughts on the CERN? You mean on CERN? I think it's great. I think CERN is one of the most important things we've ever done. Not sure what this meme that they're dangerous came from, but I assure you it came from people who never met a scientist. I've seen glittery sparkles in the atmosphere with no molecule. I've always thought of this as similar to the code you've seen. Do you think these two things are similar anyway at all? Yes, I do think. In fact, sometimes you see these glistening things when there's like something, there's like a field. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, CERN is not doing such a thing, guys. You guys should really listen less to what the internet tells you and just read actual official papers a little bit more. Do you spell laser with a S or a Z? I think it's a Z, right? Now I'm not so sure. Maybe in one universe it's one and then the other one is the other. I think it's a Z. Nope. It says it's a, well, can you do both? I don't know. Let's see. The correct spelling is with an S. So that's just across the board. Oh, okay. So laser with a Z is just a misspelling. But when you asked, I was like, wait, I'm not sure anymore. But that's because I'm dyslexic, probably. Is there a way I can do the laser experiment at home? Yeah, you can go to codeofreality.com. We have the protocol and we have all the parts of the laser that you need to get from Amazon to do the experiment. You don't have to get anything from the website. You can get it anywhere you'd like. As long as the specs are the same, just copy the specs and then you can go and source it and get it anywhere you'd like. But everything is in codeofreality.com. Codeofreality.com. Why do you have to have a laser? Not sure. That's what works. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying I've seen what you've seen without any laser. Oh, I understand, Bill. Yeah, this is so. Just so you know, this is literally the most common email and message I get across all platforms, which is, I see the code without the laser. I see the code without the molecule. By the way, actually too. And when I drill down when I drill down with people, usually that code that they see without the laser is different. It actually looks different, behaves different, and has different attributes. It doesn't have the same kind of properties that we're talking about. But of course, I can't know for sure until I see something the way you see it through your eyes. That's true. But I've done this now easily dozens of times with people, and every single time that I did it, we find out it's not the same code. But I think that the fact that people do see some kind of code without the molecule is also an important data point, by the way. Not to eliminate this from anything that is important. I think it's still very, very important. Um, One of the factors that I find always is that the code that is seen not without the laser is much more malleable. It responds to what you want. Like it can be a few things according to how you focus on it. The code in the laser will not change no matter what you do. It will be exactly what it is. It's as concrete as an actual physical object. Are you sure it's British or English? Because Google just says that laser with a Z is just wrong. Do they spell laser in Britain? In the UK? No, it's just wrong. It sounds like it would be, but laser with a Z is just wrong. So now we know. I mean, it does sound like it should be with a Z, so. Do you believe in manifestation and do you do it? At this point, I do because I think that it can be explained by the substrate of the tapestry of the code. You got it, Bill. Google contradicts itself in one page. Yeah, but that sounds correct. Like, I know gray can be spelled with an A and an E, depending if you're in Britain or the US. But laser, I feel like that's true. I think it is just wrong. Or maybe it's in a different timeline, who knows? Scientists have been discredited, unfortunately, due to their proclivity to take funding for their research. I mean, okay. With such great generalizations, we're going to make huge progress, my friend. Mazer Z. Nice. I mean, do you believe in synchronicity? Scientists have been discredited. By whom? They were canceled? That's great. I mean, do you believe in synchronicity? And if so, what do you think is going on? Organization is with an S. Wait. Organization is with an S in British, but a Z in the US. Interesting. I didn't know that. Don't we have reliable dictionaries anymore? I know, right? You would think. They use the spelling laser in America, but usually in Spain of kind of a way like a laser tag. No, I know, but that's this is like a play on, like, it's not actually how you spell the word, though. We don't nudge from the external with great intensity because the fails. Wait, Daniel Gjorfi is saying, we don't nudge from the external with great intensity because the fail-safe is self-development, or the whole thing is safe, Why are no direct answer then but the hot and cold game opinion? I feel like there's a few questions here. So I think I understand what you're asking. So I think what Daniel is referring to the fact that the beings in the molecule space seems to be communicating with this very rapid hot cold game with your conjectures. So you conjecture something, you say, hey, do you mean that, whatever, and then they nudge you towards yes or no. And that seems to be what they're doing across the board. So I think that the reason for that is that you don't freak out by giving too much information without you postulating it first or interacting with some version of it. I think that's one of the reasons. What is the other question here? Fail-safe was development. So I guess it's the same question. Yeah, I think that's the reason. Could you explain a bit the process? How do you look at the laser and look at the surface of laser shine on right? Sure, Daniel. Again, I know that you emailed me too, right? We interacted, and then you you got the laser and then send you a refund because you realize that you can't find the molecule. That's you, correct? So, did you read the protocol on the website? The protocol kind of explains all of this. So if you look at the laser through your phone, milliwatt doesn't really matter. Through your phone, milliwatts would not really matter. Like I said, even though I've seen it on a picture moving like that, it only happened to me. So people said that they tried and it didn't work for them. It worked for me like in a pretty robust way, so it's kind of hard for me to pretend like it didn't happen. But I'll be honest, it only happened once. It was just very, very like real. But it requires more testing. Maybe you can test it this way for sure. Yeah, if you do it on the phone, obviously the milliwatts don't matter because it's just a digital representation. It's not an actual, not actual photons that are coming back to your eye. You're right. So maybe you should try it this way for sure. But if you're doing it with the laser, definitely do not spend any substantial amount of time with a laser that's about 5 milliwatts. All right. There you go, DJ. Again, you can go to codeofreality.com and look at the specs of the stuff that you need. You can just copy paste it and then go source it. After seeing the code, does it change your perspective on life? In the beginning, it did not, but there was other things like literally the simulator is showing me, like straight up showing me this is simulated. That changed my perspective on life. Just in the sense that, well, now I know there's like a bigger picture and there's others in the room, but also it put an extra emphasis to spend time, enjoy this world, spend time with my loved ones, spend time with people that, well, you know, all the good things. Go hike, explore the world, enjoy life, enjoy this, enjoy food, enjoy other people. And yeah, do that. That's worth doing. Okay, guys, I have to hop off. I'm very tired, and tomorrow I have a long day, and it starts pretty early. So, love you all. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to follow me across all platforms, it's Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram, Goller Danny on X, Laser is I always confuse them. Laser X83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube, DANGO Thoughts on YouTube. And I've also recently added the members program on YouTube. I'm very excited. We already have a few members. I'm excited to connect. It would include personal Zoom conversations with me, lives, additional lives that are much more private and personal, aside from the daily lives we're doing here, and also content that doesn't exist anywhere else across my platforms, including some personal stuff from my life. And I'm constantly working and reforming and reformulating more things, and I'm often open for suggestions for what people might enjoy on the channel if they actually, so it's worth their money. So, all of that being said, excited to share also the documentary in a few months with you guys. Deep love. Thank you so much for joining. If you can give the live some likes across all platforms, TikTok and X and YouTube and Twitch. I appreciate you all. There's a lovely community that is growing. Peace and love. Ciao. Until tomorrow. See you, everybody.